TuneIn Premium has all the radio you want for $7.99 a month. That's all the radio you want for $7.99 a month. That means every single Major League Baseball game, every single NFL game, the most massive collection of commercial-free radio stations in the world, over 5.5 million podcasts, and unlimited access to 40,000 audiobooks. Download the TuneIn Radio app for a free 7-day trial of TuneIn Premium. TuneIn Premium. Boundless audio.
A man who wears the 10 pounds of gold, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
You know, I always like to take this opportunity to talk about myself. Woo! Woo!
The 16-time heavyweight champion has arrived.
I've got the style and profile like never before.
The greatest talker in the history of the business is behind the mic once again.
You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine like, jet flying, son of a gun. Woo!
This is Woo Nation with Ric Flair.
I'm the man. Ric Flair.
Hey everyone, this is the Nature Boy Ric Flair, 16 times your world champion, the host of Woo Nation, along with my co-host, the legend, the man, the myth, the second wealthiest man in Alabama, soon to be the first, and a man who's introduced himself last week to Lear Jet Rental. Now looking at the option of buying one. We're going to call it the Woo Express. It'll carry any male friend of Conrad's and multiple women between the ages of 18 to 28. Conrad, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm excited we're finally getting to do this. You've been a busy man this week.
First trip on the Woo Express.
Oh, I don't know. I think we need to do that for like the Super Bowl, that LT party out there in Vegas.
All right, good deal, man. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Catch us up. You have had quite the week this week, and I don't think everybody knows kind of what's been going on with a doctor's visit or two and then a film crew or two. So kind of smarten everybody up. What's been going on in the life of the Nature Boy?
Well, just an explanation as to why you and I are late, doing what we consider our favorite part, pastime in life, and that's doing the podcast. In Mexico a week ago Saturday, I tore my Achilles tendon. And as you know, I was under the assumption that I was going to have surgery on Monday of this past week. And the doctor decided, because it was a tear only maybe 3/4 of an inch rather than like the 2-inch tear, that he would try something experimental, and he injected me with stem cells that were flown in from Miami, flown in with the doctor to inject them. So unbelievably, my ankle is not totally healed, but I can walk around normal. I have to wear a boot to travel to Europe because I'm leaving this week with WWE. But I'll be able to get into the ring, wear my shoes, and wear regular socks and stuff like that. Just keep the boot on while I travel. But feels a lot better, and God bless again. I dodged a bullet, thank God, which I've been able to do most of my life physically. And then, of course, we shot the first round of interviews for 30 for 30, which has been announced for ESPN, which was really exciting, which took a whole day. So here we are, man, getting this thing back up and running. The podcast, the Woo Nation, and the C-Man and Ric Flair hanging out together again.
Hey, so let's talk a little bit about the 30 for 30 deal. You know, obviously that's just now making news, but you've been working on that, you and Melinda, for quite a while. How did that whole process come about?
Well, it's something that they approached Melinda about. It's almost been a year and a half ago or 2 years. And, of course, the main hurdle was getting permission from WWE because they wanted footage, and they wanted exclusive use of footage, and they wanted to be able to select the footage. And, as you know, the WWE is very, very protective of their intellectual property, which is, what we consider the footage on me. And even though a lot of my stuff is trademarked, the WWE shares in the trademark expense. As a matter of fact, while I'm working with them, they actually pay for the trademark expense. my understanding. So it's mutually beneficial for all of us. But it just took a while to get everybody on the same page, and she worked on it diligently for I guess it's been a year and a half, and all of a sudden it's come to fruition. We shot the first 6 hours, and we'll shoot another 6 or 7 hours, which you'll be part of at Survivor Series, and then there'll be another 6 hour shoot, and then of course all the stuff that they'll pull from the library at the in Stamford, Connecticut, with the WWE to put together the whole film. So it'll be exciting.
Well, absolutely. and if you know Ric Flair, you know, in real life, you know that from the minute Rick wakes up until he goes to bed, he's watching ESPN. So this is like got to be something kind of bucket list for you, right? I mean, this is a big deal.
Well, it is. It's I guess for me, I love watching that show. I've seen probably 25 or 30 of the 30 for 30s in the last couple of years. You know, and it's a great format, and to be the first wrestler that they've ever even considered doing it. I know that they were entertaining the idea of Andre the Giant and how they arrived at me. I don't know, but I'm very proud of that fact. And certainly there are a lot of guys in that business that have, you know, been successful, but it's kind of, I guess they feel like I've kind of transcended pop culture and stuff like that, and through all the years of entertaining myself, it's paid off.
Yeah, well, they actually
money on clothes, alligator shoes, jewelry, you know, what the heck.
So yeah, what's the deal? What's the kind of story? You know, I don't know that you know this or not, but they actually did a quick one, like they called it a 30 for 30 shorts on the Von Erich tragedy that, you know, happened with their whole family and all the guys, you know, and their untimely passing. But that was like a 15-minute deal. But if they're shooting like 12 hours of footage here, this should be like the full Monty, the full 30 for 30. What's kind of the story or the theme? Is it just your whole life, or is it one particular area?
Well, it's my whole life. It's a little bit to do with the, you know, my airplane crash, of course, and then coming back from that, and the titles and the championships, and you know, it touches a lot of my personal life, which has been, you know, up and down. Right now, it's perfect, but you know, I had a couple rough years there. And it talks about my son Reed, and wanted to talk about him and how special he was to me, and then a lot about Ashley, Charlotte, Ashley Charlotte, who's now the champion of the WWE Diva division, and about my other two children, Megan and David. So it was very nice. And then, you know, talked about where I am today and how I feel about everything and what my life is like when I wake up. And you know, thanks to people like you and Wendy, my life's good. And Melinda. So I'm in a great place. And to be my age, making this kind of money and enjoying life, I feel very fortunate to be where I'm at. And by the way, as you and I have talked about 100 times, I never looked at any of that stuff I did in the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s as going to work. I was just having fun. And actually, the fun just started at 11 o'clock every night.
Well, we're actually taping this.
The ring was the first part of the fun. The rest of the night was just to be undetermined, to be determined, rather. That's the part you like anyway, better than the wrestling.
Oh yeah, listen, there's way more fun to be had after the matches with Ric Flair than, you know, at the matches with Ric Flair. So speaking of fun, we're taping this the morning after Halloween. So what did the Nates do for Halloween this year?
Actually, I took Wendy and her kids, or her oldest daughter, Sophia, and her neighbors, and her neighbor Marcy, who I'm trying to push off on you. I told her it would be a good move, you know. Not sure that she's in your age demographic, but you could make something happen probably. Just as you're passing through Atlanta, you know what I mean?
I'm gonna get in trouble with you.
I'm just kidding. And her daughter and her boyfriend out to a Mexican restaurant, actually Twisted Taco, which is owned by Dr. Pantia, the orthopedic that was treating my Achilles tendon. and then over to feed the kids at Carrabba's, and I came back home, and Wendy, being the mother she is, trick-or-treated with her kids, passed out candy, and they tore the neighborhood down while I watched football at here. So it was a great night. I understand I got 1,000 pictures from Wendy and, of course, Megan of Morgan, and everybody had a good time. And Ashley was in Billings, Montana, in the middle of nowhere, driving to where's she at tonight? I can't even remember. Somewhere, another 300-mile drive to where she's wrestling tonight. And, of course, then she's driving into Denver, where I will see her later this evening.
Billings, Montana?
Billings, Montana is where she was last night, yeah. And she's somewhere, I'm trying to think, somewhere in Wyoming, and then driving into Denver.
I mean, when WWE rolls into town in Billings, Montana, that's immediately the biggest thing going on. Is that fair to say?
Of course it is. The difference now is that the kids drive out to get to the next town instead of spending the night and relishing the moment, sharing what the citizens of the town want after the matches. The boy.
I was not ready
Social
for
media
that.
prohibits that now. I could never have wrestled in this generation.
No. From what I understand, TMZ would have had fun with you yesterday. But
Oh, yesterday. Oh, God. Let's not go there, okay? Just trying to keep Wendy happy.
all right, man. Well, let's keep the listeners to Woo Nation happy. We're going to go to a commercial.
It's a good thing from what I've heard that TMZ wasn't undercover at your Halloween party.
Yeah.
Lord.
I would be out of business this morning if they had been here on
First Family
Friday.
Mortgage would be on the block.
Yeah. Yeah, the paparazzi was here, and they had to get smartened up beforehand. Don't shoot this and don't shoot that.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, you never can trust anybody, so I think just have to, you know what you have to do? You have to go put a metal detector up in your house, the efforts, and take all cell phones.
At a certain part of the night, there is a cell phone collection, just in case.
I'm sure of it.
Well, hey, this is the greatest podcast in the history of our sport, because when we come back on the other side, our guest today is who, Rick?
Tony Schiavone.
We'll be right back on Woo Nation.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nature Boy Ric Flair here, 16 times your world champion, the host of Woo Nation, along with my legendary co-host, whose credentials never need to be reviewed, the man, the myth, the legend, Conrad Thompson of Huntsville, Alabama, and our guest today. Gosh, I cannot tell you how many years we've been friends, how much fun we've experienced together, how many times we've cried about the direction our business was going in, but managed to smile at some point in time. And one of the things I admire the most about Tony is, as hard as I have tried over the years, he has stayed married to the same woman, has 5 beautiful children, and that was I worked on that. I mean, I tried to get Tony to just come out once in a while, but it was very few times that we did. I had to have him on the road where he couldn't get locked out, or he couldn't lock me out of his room. But a great guy, and obviously one of the greatest announcers in the history of our business. Mr. Tony Schiavone. How are you, Tony?
Champ, I'm doing great. Those are some tremendous accolades, and I appreciate it. I really do. It means a lot. Yes.
Well, Tony now is an announcer for the Gwinnett Braves, who draw more, the Gwinnett County Braves, which is a AAA team, who have more attendance, or have a larger attendance than the main Braves downtown. And he also works for the University of Georgia, which I'm sure Tony is sad about today, calling the games for the University of Georgia. So you're on your way back to Jacksonville as we speak.
Right. We're still in Jacksonville right now, and we're getting ready to leave here soon. And yeah, it was another dark day for the Georgia Bulldogs. But you know, Rick, I've been coming down here since 2002, and most days down here in Jacksonville for Georgia have been dark days. So it's kind of been like a trip of misery. I do need to tell the story real fast.
They were all dark when Spurrier was there. It was terrible. So
yeah, no question. I do need to tell the story. Someone pounded on our door this morning, a security officer, and he said, "There's a guy running around the hotel naked." And he said, "Do you know who he is?" I said, "Well, I know who he's not because I'll be talking to him tomorrow on these podcasts on the Woo Nation." So just thought I'd let you know.
Oh, yeah, I thought you were making that up. Well, thank you for sticking up for me. It's the first time ever. You Lois, he's making me do it. What's that?
That was Lois. That was Lois talking.
Oh, is she with you?
Yeah, she's with me. Yeah.
Oh, great, good deal.
Yeah,
like
she. That's her talking. She said, "That's not Ric Flair, is it?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, you're not going to be able to go out with him."
Of course not. Hey, so Tony, let's go back to the history, and I'll give my version, and you give yours. Okay.
Okay.
So, I come to Charlotte in the 70s, 74 to be exact, and I can't remember what year, but the Crockett's still owned the Charlotte O's, which were I believe, a double A or single A.
They were a double A team.
Double A team from the farm system of the Baltimore Orioles. Tony was the announcer for the team. And I had to do a couple of things out there for promotion because sometimes I use the wrestler to promote the baseball. And I met Tony, and we talked, and I walked back in the Crockett's office like the next day and said, "This guy needs to be, nothing against." It was what was the guy's name? The older tall gentleman at that point in time. The two announcers.
Well, back then, David Crockett did one show, Bob Cottle did the other. But if you'll recall, back when we did all the promos in the back there, yes, it was Big Bill Ward. Remember Big Bill Ward?
And I thought it was about time that they moved on and were more contemporary. And I suggested that Tony come to work for the company. And and I don't know whether you'd continue to do both, but you were working over at the office the next week, if I remember correctly.
Right. Yeah, it didn't take long.
Go
ahead. That was a turning point in my career, Rick, because, and let me say this, I grew up in Virginia, and in the Shenandoah Valley, and so we watched Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, and I was a big fan of it. So being able to meet you back in you and I met right before the very first Starrcade. And
okay, so it would be like 82. Okay,
82, 83. And so being able to meet you, I remember when they told me, they said, "We want you to go to Ric Flair's house and do an interview about his upcoming match in Greensboro against Harley Race." And I remember thinking, holy smokes, this is a big deal. And I literally could not sleep that night. And you can even verify that with Lois. I was so excited about being able to do an interview with you because I was a big wrestling fan. I really was, of Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. So it was one of the biggest deals of my life, and it'll go down as one of my most memorable moments of my career.
Well, that's pretty nice you to say. I mean, I don't think people sometimes when we talk about the business now, and a lot of it's taken for granted, but Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling was as popular as wrestling at the Chase. I mean, the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling was over big time in about 5 states. It was huge, Conrad. And the Shenandoah Valley, you're not from Harrisonburg, are you, Tony?
No, but I went to school there, though. I went to James Madison.
I knew that, yeah, but I didn't know. I knew Ralph Sampson went to high school there in Harrisonburg, but the Shenandoah Valley is great. The only thing that was wrong with it, it was as beautiful as it was a 300-mile drive from Charlotte. So, when I saw the Shenandoah Valley, I went, "Oh God."
Yeah.
Well, Rick, let's Expo. Here we come.
Yeah, that's the Augusta Expo. Yeah. Let me tell you this. Here's a story that you have that you don't even know that I was a part of, and I knew you did. He did a million events and you did small venues. You did a lot of spot shows, as we called them. There was an event in Harrisonburg, Virginia, at the high school, and this is where Ralph Sampson went to high school. And I was in college, so this had to be like 78, maybe 1977. So I went in to Harrison. I was going to college there. I went to the high school, and I bought the entire front row of ringside. And, okay, and I had my family. And on one end was my Uncle John, and Uncle John was 84 years old back then, and he had a walker. And he also had a cane, I think. They had those canes that grip the arms on each side. Well, it was you and Valentine against Johnny Weaver, and I think it was Rufus R. Freight Train Jones. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. And you guys spilled down on the floor, and a guy jumped out of the stands onto the back of Greg Valentine.
Yep, I remember that. Gosh, what a memory you have. Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys beat the hell out of this guy. You did. You guys just pounded him in, and another guy was going to run out and help his buddy until he saw he was getting his ass kicked. And then he stopped. And I remember thinking back then, holy smikes.
Yeah.
This is real.
And that was happening every night because a lot of smaller towns provide the necessary security. But at the same time, you didn't get in trouble like you would now for punching a fan. But the fans were jumping on us all the time. And the hotter the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
Oftentimes, the smaller the venue, the hotter the crowd, and it's very, very narrow aisles to walk through to get back to the dressing room. So, that happened a lot at Harrisonburg. I do remember that because the guy knocked down to the floor. So,
oh, my God.
Yeah, so that it's funny you remember that.
The Schiavone family was there that night, champ. The Schiavone family was there that night, and that was before I got into the business, before I knew you. But I'm going to let you know that I went to the spot show. I went to all the spot shows at the old Augusta Expo. My friends and I would always go to the shows in Richmond. We went to the shows in Roanoke at the Roanoke Civic Center, and we drove down to Greensboro many times to see you guys wrestle there. So I went to a lot of wrestling matches before I became an employee.
Well, gosh, here's the situation. Had I known that we were going to have this history in our lives, going forward, we should have gotten to know each other when you were still young and not married and enjoyed the benefits of the Richmond Howard Johnson or the Richmond Holiday, depending on what month it was, or the Greensboro Sheridan, the Greensboro Holiday Inn, as we were evacuated from the premises of every hotel in Greensboro. What a great time in life.
All right, Rick, it's time to talk about DraftKings.com, and if you've been enjoying all these episodes of Woo Nation, you need to remember our longest sponsor. It's DraftKings.com, and they are your daily fantasy expert. This is the place you want to go if you want to make the big bucks. It's DraftKings.com, and what's cool about this, Rick, is there's no season-long commitments. How many guys have we seen injured so far this year, Rick?
A lot of them. DraftKings.com.
Yeah, you're talking about Ben Roethlisberger. He was out. Des Bryant's out. Tony Romo's out. A lot of those guys are your first-round picks in your traditional regular fantasy football sites. Not with DraftKings.com. You get to hit the reset button every single week. And you know what else they're doing every week? They're making a new millionaire right there at DraftKings.com. And here's how it works. You just pick up your players, pile up the points, and then pick up your cash. It's that easy. Believe me, you've never experienced fantasy football like this before. See, this isn't fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time. So if you've been enjoying Woo Nation and you enjoy getting paid to watch football, go to DraftKings.com right now and use promo code
FLAIR, FLAIR.
And you're going to play for free and get your shot at $1 million in this week's Millionaire Maker event. Enter FLAIR for free entry now, only at DraftKings.com.
At DraftKings.com.
DraftKings.com.
DraftKings.com. Woo-woo.
TuneIn Premium has all the radio you want for $7.99 a month. That's all the radio you want for $7.99 a month. That means every single Major League Baseball game, every single NFL game, the most massive collection of commercial-free radio stations in the world, over 5.5 million podcasts, and unlimited access to 40,000 audiobooks. Download the TuneIn Radio app for a free 7-day trial of TuneIn Premium. TuneIn Premium. Boundless audio.
Well, thank you. As you know, probably know, I have a lot of friends who I grew up with who went to wrestling with me. And I'm telling you that what they would ask me when I would go back home was, is Ric Flair in person like he is on television? And I think that's probably the question. That's the question I've had most of all throughout my life. And my answer is,
hey, don't hurt yourself with the answer now, okay?
My answer is, no, he's not. He's worse.
You would certainly know from first-hand observation.
Yes, I
would. So, Tony, the story that is my favorite of all time is, which we won't go into any more detail than just the outline, is when, remember, I had to be the Black Scorpion because, and I actually saw that kid at Dusty's funeral. The kid quit Al Perez. So I had to be the Black Scorpion in St. Louis, right?
Right.
And I was completely cracked because I had to hide under the ring for 4 hours, remember? And then come out. Yeah. So when I got back to the hotel, the only night, I will admit to this. I did put on my robe.
Yeah.
And I went and got Tony Schiavone. And you did see the world champion in action.
Yes, I did. Let me, Rick, if I can.
And then you exited the premises.
Rick, if I can, let me tell the real story of this thing, because I have a vivid. I don't have a vivid. I'm getting older, as you know, and so my memory is not as good as it used to be. But I've got a vivid memory of this night because it is in the late.
Hold on one second, my Conrad. We can always edit, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Conrad's loving it.
All right. Go ahead. I was always a good guy, and I would go to bed until someone would come get me. Well, the phone rang in my hotel room in St. Louis, Missouri that night, and it was you on the phone. And you said, "Come up here, I got something I want to show you." I said, "No, I'm not." You said, "You either come up here or I'm going to come down there, get security, we're coming in your room." I said, "All right." So I came up to your room, and you had that little thing, that little gimmick on the door that they use, to keep the door open. And I knocked on the door, and you said, "Come on in." So I came in, and there you were with the mask on, and that gigantic robe. And that thing, I don't know how much that cost you, but that thing was elaborate.
Yeah, I know it cost me like $4,000 just for one event. Yeah, Olivia Walker made that for me.
Yeah. And so you said you had that robe covered, and you were standing in front of, how a lot of times in the Marriott, the closet has mirrors on the outside, and you were standing in front of that, and you went, in a scorpion voice to me, you went, "Sting." How can you contend with this? And you open up your robe, and you did have a stitch of clothes on, and the baby's arm was full erect.
Oh, my God. How can you contend with this?
And you closed the robe again. You said, "Let me do it for you one more time." I said, well, what the hell? Why not? Go ahead. You went, Sting. And with this. And the second time you opened it up, the rope was so big and heavy, it almost knocked you over. And I said, okay, well, I've got to go wash my hair. So I'm going to leave. Have a nice day. And you said, no, stay here. I'm going to go. And you walked out. And I'm thinking, oh, my God. So I did what any good friend would do when you walked out in the state that you were in with that robe mask on and nothing underneath. I did what any friend would do. I went back to my room and went to sleep.
Yeah, that's the night I got locked out of my room. I couldn't remember what room it is, and had to ride down to the lobby in the elevator in my house. So, so just to take it one step further, you had some friends with you that night. I think maybe from Charlotte. I'm not sure. Charlotte, but I can't remember who it was. I was never good on names. For some reason, I got called back up. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Room, to your room, and there were two guys there.
Okay.
And I knocked on the door, and for some reason, you may shed some light on this. I don't know. She may deny it, but Terry Boatwright was there. I don't know why Terry Boatwright was there.
Terry Boatwright. Oh, Terry Reynolds.
Yeah, Reynolds. I called her.
Oh, yeah.
Boatwright was her mate.
She was just walking down the hall and was summoned to come. I can't even remember. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, maybe the word got sent out that the baby's arm was in full view for everybody, so maybe she wanted to take a look at it herself. Now that could have been it. I don't know what the reason was, but I remember them. I remember going back in your room, and those two guys said, "We got to go find him." And I said, "Go get him. I'll stay here in the room." And one guy came back about 10 minutes later, and he said, "The other guy's got him." I went, "Good." The other guy came right back about 2 minutes later, said, "I don't have him." And I'm thinking, boy, this is a story for the ages. And then that was about the end of it with me. And then I heard the story about you getting in the elevator and getting locked out of your room, which I thought was a great way to cap off that night. Yeah.
Yeah. As I was hollering to the girl at 6 a.m. was opening the restaurant, get me someone from the front desk with my mask and robe on. That got over. Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, enough of these stories. I
got more. Wait a minute, I got more.
I'm sure. Well, let Conrad ask you some questions. Conrad actually knows more about the business, Tony, or as much as Dave Meltzer.
But you know what?
So
here's the deal, though, Rick. Nobody cares. Tony, tell another Ric Flair story.
Okay, we were in Baltimore, and we were, Conrad, we didn't need to talk about the business. But anyway, last story. We were in Baltimore, and somebody had a suite, probably Rick did, and it was, I think it was probably during the Great American Bash, and there was a party going on, and there was all these people that I didn't know. And I was in this main suite, I was across the room, and there was Rick in the bedroom back there, and he cracked the door, and he stuck his head out. He looked at me, he said, "Come here." So, like a dumbass, I went over there, and he said, "See that girl right there?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Bring her over here." I said, "All right." So I said, "Hey, the champ wants to talk to you." She went, "Oh, okay, great." We walked over, he opened the door, he said, "Sweetie, can you put a sock on this for me?" I don't think I have to tell you any more about that, Conrad. You can use the visual.
Was it a no-show sock, or was it an ankle-length sock?
Oh, no. But the girl went, "Yikes!" like that, and we all got a big laugh, and that was funny.
Oh, God.
But you know what was great about those things is that those days are gone in this politically correct world that we live in.
Yeah.
And the videotape world, those days are gone, and that's pretty cool when you think about it. I got to live those times that will never be lived again.
Well, you know, too, the thing that I'm always going to say, there really is no excuse for that kind of behavior back then, but my excuse is that we worked so hard, we had to find some recreation. So that was my excuse, my justification.
Hey, never apologize for being Ric Flair, for crying out loud.
Oh, I won't. I mean, but let's talk about. You know, listen, I don't, and like I said, I've made some mistakes, but the ones I made, I brought on myself, and can't blame anybody but myself. But I'm not mad at myself for those days, because I think I entertained a lot of people as well as myself. I certainly did you when you would allow me to. So, and Chuck Burnham, whatever happened to him? Oh my God!
Yeah, Chip was pretty much a big idiot, wasn't he?
Oh God! Yeah, I'm on my way. Good Lord! So Tony, tell these people because it can come from me 100 times. How it was at Saturday morning at Techwood, man. We would roll in after being out all night long and do 2 hours of live TV or live to tape that would air that night. But man, that was a glorious time of life. We had so much fun, huh?
Rick, it was, the only thing you got to do, and I do this a lot, the only thing you got to do is go on YouTube and look up some of those old promos that you did. I've seen people come to me. Yeah. And just watch those things, and you know why we were so hot. Because that was great television. That was tremendous, off-the-cuff, unscripted television. And that's one of the reasons that wrestling was what it was back then.
Yeah, so many people will still say to me to this day, I mean, not someone like Conrad, but who knows, but they'll say, well, who wrote that for you? I said, who you wrote it for? Right. We just drank a cup of coffee and brushed our teeth, put a comb through our hair, and went down and did it, And, with Dusty, I mean, Dusty had his gang and I had mine, and, the friendship between Arn and I and the Horsemen, and, I mean, just loaded with talent. The Road Warriors, Magnum, Sting, Luger, Dusty. I mean, the Rock and Roll Express. I mean, and Steamboat coming and going. I mean, it was just a phenomenal time in life. So, yeah, it was. Didn't you call all those matches between me and Steamboat '89 with Ross?
I did not. I was at the WWE at that time.
Okay, you were. Okay, I couldn't remember what time you called me. Because tell that story, how you got there.
How I got the WWE?
Yeah, I think a lot of folks kind of forget that you were there, but if you go listen to because everybody wants to talk about the Monday Night Wars, but you were in Crockett, and then you went to New York, and then came back. How did that come about, and why did you leave in the first place?
Well, I left in the first place because, Crockett Promotions was being sold, and was sold to Turner Broadcasting. And I had a meeting with Jim Hurd and Jack Petrick at Turner Broadcasting, and they offered me more money than a baseball announcer had ever made in his life. And it was incredible. And compared to what the guys made, it wasn't much, but compared to what I had been making, it was a lot. But I didn't want to work for Turner. I didn't necessarily. I didn't want to move to Atlanta, which is odd because I've been living there for 25 years now. But I didn't want to move to Atlanta from Charlotte, and just something in that meeting did not go right. I didn't like it.
Yeah, Jim Hood that had that effect on people.
Yeah. So I oddly enough, that same night, and I remember what night it was because it was a Monday night, and I went over Magnum PA's house, who lived very close to me in Charlotte. And this, of course, after Magnum had his injury and everything. And I worked out on his treadmill, and we were watching the old primetime wrestling on a Monday night. And it was the angle where Terry Taylor was the Red Rooster, and they had the Brooklyn Brawler, and the Brooklyn Brawler came out, and Bobby Heenan told him to stomp the Red Rooster, and he did. So I remember watching that, and I went back home, and my wife said, JJ, Dylan just called. So I called JJ back, and JJ said, I just signed to work for Vince, and he's very interested in having you come work for him. So can I have him call you? And, of course, this was the day before the cell phones. I said, yes. So Vince called the house the next day, flew me up there later that week to his house in Greenwich. And, of course, needless to say, I was, I had stars in my eyes back then. And I accepted the job, went to work there in April of 1989, and worked there until April of 1990. And at the end of 89, I got a call from Jim Barnett to come back to WCW, and they offered me almost twice the money Vince was. And, you know, we really didn't like living in Connecticut. And so based on the money they were offering me and the chance to move back south, I took it. And that's kind of the story in a nutshell, Conrad.
Yeah, I remember you called me. I can remember I was in which house I was in. You called me, and weren't you doing TV? Weren't you doing TV with Jesse Ventura at that time for Vince? Who was your partner?
My partner on the shows was Gorilla Monsoon. And,
okay, cool. I'm sorry.
But I also did 2 pay-per-views with Ventura. So that's probably what you remember. I did SummerSlam, and I did Royal Rumble with Ventura. That's probably what you remember.
Okay. All right, okay. Yeah. I knew you did something with him because you called me and said, I'm coming back home. And I said, well, I'm leaving. So we crisscrossed paths. I actually tried for a year with her, but I couldn't make it. You know what I mean? So yeah. He was difficult, boy. He was really difficult. I met some people, some obstinate people in my lifetime, but I just couldn't imagine a guy with that little knowledge trying to tell us what to do. You know, again, to this day, cutting my hair was the worst mistake of my life. I mean, well, not really. I got to count my last 2 marriages as the worst mistakes of my life, but counting my hair was number 3.
All right, Rick, let's talk some more about LDProducts.com. They're making sure that Woo Nation is brought to you every single week for free, and they're making sure they're doing that because they're helping so many people save cash on their ink and toner needs. You see, you don't go to the car dealerships to buy gas, so why in the world would you go back to the printer manufacturer to buy your ink and toner? Don't do that. Go to the experts. Go to LDProducts.com. They're going to put some extra...
The number 1 LDProducts.com in the world.
That's exactly right. And here's why they're number 1, Rick. In the last 16 years, that's right, they've been in business 16 years. Now they're selling more than 6 million cartridges a year. They're doing something right.
Think about that, Conrad. 6 million cartridges a year. That's Conrad Thompson money.
I'll tell you what, LDProducts.com is on a whole nother level. They've got U.S.-based customer service. It's 7 days a week, and they're doing it from a 110,000-square-foot building in California. That's even bigger than the Conradison, Rick. Come on.
I suggest we fly the Woo Nation private jet out to see the complex in person.
We could park all the Woo Nation jets in 110,000 square feet. These guys know how to save you money. And how about this? They have an unprecedented lifetime customer satisfaction guarantee on all LD brand cartridges. You can return a product for any reason. Who else is giving you that type of guarantee? But right now, you get an extra bonus just for listening to Woo Nation. Just check out LDProducts.com and use promo code
FLAIR.
And you'll save an extra 10% off. So it's already 70% off what you're used to seeing, and you get an extra 10% off. It doesn't get any better than LDProducts.com. And with all that extra cash, you can style and profile. Isn't that right, Rick?
That's right, at LDProducts.com. Limousine riding, jet flying, woo! LDProducts.com.
So, Tony... something that a lot of people talk about these days is the overproduction of the WWE announcing and all the different notes and the banned words and the fact that Vince is in their ear the entire program. What was your experience like working for Vince in that regard all the way back then? Did you have those type of banned words and production notes, and was he screaming in your ear the entire broadcast, or what did that look like?
No, that was, we didn't have that at all, Conrad. Vince, and this is kind of one of the reasons I left as well, which is kind of a very minor reason. But Vince never did produce me at all. He always had Bruce Pritchard produce me. So Bruce would always tell me what to say and would remind me of things. But as far as anybody being in my ear during a pay-per-view, it was always Bruce Pritchard. It never was Vince. And Bruce also, we also did, I did Wrestling Challenge with Gorilla Monsoon, which was one of the two syndicated shows Vince had back then. And we did all the commentary, back at the studio. So that was before the days of the live Raw and what they're doing right now, or the live tape Raw, whatever they do. So no, he didn't produce me that much at all. And of course, working with Gorilla Monsoon, he wouldn't dare tell Gorilla Monsoon what to do, I don't think. So
Gorilla was a nice guy and very easygoing, I thought. Did you?
Yeah. Yo, I'm telling you, Champ, he is, when I go back and think about my announcing career, he was one of the nicest guys. He helped me so much. And such a gentleman. Yeah, I have a lot of great feelings about him. Him and Lord Alfred Hayes will go down as two of my favorite people of all time.
Yeah. Alfred Belt, he was a great guy as well. I got all these names, and sometimes when we do these podcasts, names will come out of different guests like yourself that you haven't heard in years. But Lord Alfred Hayes was a great guy. So if you sum it up now, are you missing wrestling? Would you undertake it again? You're certainly young enough to do it. Or is wrestling just something you're never going to touch again at this point?
That's a good question. I've asked that a lot. I tried to move on in my career, Rick. I didn't want to go the route of the small time promotions and things like that. I tried to go a different route, and I was very lucky because I loved baseball. That when WCW folded and was bought out by Vince, I got a job with the flagship station of the Atlanta Braves. So I got to do some Braves work and got to know Skip Carey and Pete Van Wieren and that crew. And then, of course, it kind of went over with the Georgia Bulldogs, and I got to work with Larry Munson, who was a legendary voice and has passed on now. I really love what I do. And it was, as you probably know, at the end of WCW, it was not good. It was not a good working atmosphere.
Oh, my God. Thank you.
Yeah, it was horrible. And I can only imagine what you guys went through because I know what I went through. And I work with such good people. I've been working with such good people now for 14 years that I really don't want to lose them. They're just too good to me. And the benefits are too good and the lifestyle's too good. I work a lot. I put in a heck of a day work. But and their benefits are just too good. And I love wrestling. I really do. And I hope that all my stories that I was telling you beforehand about watching Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling before I got into it, I loved wrestling, but I just love my job too much now.
Yeah, well, that's great. And you're happy, and your kids are all growing now, right? You don't have any at home anymore, do you?
No, yeah. Our youngest kids are 28 years old.
Yeah. I was going to say, is that possible? God, Tony, that's how long we've known each other. Jesus. I had forgotten all about the fact you were miserable having to drive down to Atlanta because you wanted to stay in Charlotte. I had forgotten that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Hey, but you've seen so much. I mean, that thing, I try to tell people, and you were right there for it all, but when that thing with Magnum went down, man, it was huge. I mean, it was like, the Carolina Medical Center, you'd have thought that Elvis Presley was in there. Am I correct, Tony, in saying that? That was just such a tragic thing, and that's one of the situations of no seatbelt, rain, stuff like that. But just the way, the pace of the business, the days working every day, it just, you had to enjoy it to do it. And I think, today, the kids do enjoy it, and certainly they're more scrutinized. Do you ever see my daughter, Charlotte? Have you seen her wrestling yet?
Rick, I don't watch it, but I do follow things on social media, and I have of her, but I haven't been watching it. But it's that blows me away because I remember her as just a kid.
You were there. You were there when she was born, Tony.
Yeah, right.
You were there. Yeah.
It just blows me away.
Yeah,
She's turned into a beautiful young woman. You should be very proud of.
Oh, I am. Trust me. The whole family. She's doing great. And Megan now, I have an 11-year-old granddaughter, Megan. Megan is, got 4 sleep apnea labs, and David's got 2 beautiful kids, and he lives in Shelby. So I couldn't be happier. We had a personal tragedy a couple of years ago that, we still, none of us can get our hands around, but, we've all learned to support each other and move forward. But, Ashley's having a great time in the business. So, I can't say enough good about it. I'm leaving for Europe for 10 days tomorrow, and how many fathers in a lifetime get to go travel with their daughter who's the world champion around Europe? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Guess what? I've been to Europe with you too. I was in London with you and man, and I won't tell that story.
Oh, you got to tell that story. Don't tease us.
Go ahead. Go ahead and tell us. I don't care. Damage already done.
You, me, and Gene Okerlund took the train from London to Birmingham. No, London to Manchester. Went through Birmingham.
Yeah.
I know, Conrad. There's nothing special about that story. But tune in next week, and you never know when that story will come out.
He gave us the Nitro cliffhanger.
Hey, Tony, we've had Gene on the show. How much fun was Gene Okerlund?
I still say, and I know Jim Ross was a great play-by-play guy and will go down as he and Gordon Soley as the greatest announcers ever. But I really think that if you think about the best announcers ever in wrestling, you got to include Gene Okerlund in there. Nobody did promos like him, and he was one of the funniest men ever.
Tony Schiavone, not because you're on the show, but you got to throw yourself in that group, man. I mean, everybody had their niche. Gordon was the technician whose voice never changed. Jim Ross was the innovator of, bringing excitement level and making people who weren't as good as they thought they were look even better, even though they weren't working as good. Does that make sense? Jim did chicken salad out of chicken shit, and yet he was that good, right? But Tony Schiavone, the thing that your strength was, Tony, you could just sit there and get bombarded from 40 different angles, and mine being the heaviest of all, and you wouldn't flinch. You just went, okay, hello, and what are your thoughts, JJ? The middle bucket, by the way. We see JJ all the time.
Do you really?
Oh, sure. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, I have only done one big autograph signing. I did one in New Jersey a couple of years ago, and the reason is, and there's a misconception that I hate the business. That is a lie. That is a lie perpetrated by people on the internet that don't like me. But
who would like you?
Yeah, I got a call one day from someone that wanted me to do an autograph signing in New Jersey, and it just so happened that it was on a bye week for the Georgia Bulldogs, so I was able to do it. But Rick, basically, because I do baseball, football, and basketball,
exactly,
it's taken up, year round. So when they have these autograph signings, I can't do it. So I was able to do one, and I got to see JJ. I saw Vader. I saw Kevin Nash. I saw Barry Windham, who has gained a lot of weight. I guess.
I know.
Yeah, I saw.
Jacket. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I saw Hillbilly Jim. So it was good seeing those people. I wish I could do more of those. I wish I could stay in touch with you guys more than I do. I really do, because when you work that close together and you put so much time and sweat and effort into the business, you build long-lasting friendships.
Well, here's my first suggestion off the top of my head. Blow off Lois when you get home. I'll change my flight to tomorrow, and I'll pick you up tonight. Where do you want to go?
Okay, hang on. Lois, Rick wants to pick me up tonight. Is that okay? Where? At the house.
For what?
Oh, just to go out for burgers. She just said, as long as you're wearing clothes, it's fine.
Okay. Yes, tell her thank you. Such a vote of confidence. Tony, I'm going to say one thing to you, and put your phone close to your ear.
What's that?
Only put your phone close to your ear, because I'm going to throw one at you. You need a curveball. I'll mention one town, one state.
Yeah.
Cheyenne, Wyoming. Hello. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes, I always did love the Wild West. Yes.
They do have Chinese food and Japanese table in Cheyenne. Yes, they do.
All right, let's quickly talk about something that won't get Tony in trouble. Let's talk about Eric Bischoff and Nitro and how big that thing got and just what you guys' experience was like. I know it was chaos back then, but from an announcer standpoint, the talk is things were just changing on the fly. The show was being rewritten constantly, and that couldn't have been easy from a preparation standpoint. What was your experience like during the Monday Night Wars and all those last-minute changes? And Nitro.
Yeah, Conrad, we had a lot of shows where, I shouldn't say a lot, I'd say a number of shows, of course I lose count, where we actually would go to the table with a format and then get a different one as the show was going on. I remember getting pages and pages of formats in the midst of a show. They changed constantly. And I don't know who to blame that on or why it was. Maybe there were just too many cooks in the kitchen, right? But I always go back to this fact, is that, and this is why I think Vince prevailed in the Monday Night Wars. Turner Broadcasting was never going to win this war because it wasn't Turner Broadcasting's only thing. It was Vince's business. He was all in for the business, and he was always going to win it because of that. Good times, bad times, up and down. I knew that it was always going to, I really thought that there were many days where, and this was early on when Jim Herd was running it, there were many days I would go to work thinking, well, they're going to close us down any day now. And that didn't happen. But we had so many changes during Monday Night Wars or Monday Night Raw or Nitro. But, things were going well. Even through all the midst of the changes and everything, things were going well because, again, it's a talent-driven product.
Right.
If you have the talent and you have the good matches, you can be disorganized in the back, and everything's going to pan out. But it just kind of got too overblown. I go back to this. Back in the day, and Rick, you can back me up on this. Back in the day, when you guys like you and Steamboat, or even the Anderson brothers and you and Greg Valentine and you guys, when you guys worked those great matches, you didn't go out and rehearse everything. I mean, you knew it was a craft. It was an art form. You knew what to do in the ring. And it just got to the point to where, I mean, I would see guys just, go around and work, try to choreograph bumps and high spots and everything, and then they'd come out and they would do the match that night, and it looked like crap. And I think going back to it being overproduced, I think it was overproduced many ways, and I think being overproduced is what led to the downfall of WCW Monday Nitro.
Yeah, overproduced, and like you said, I think the key word you said a moment ago, too many cooks in the kitchen. I mean, that was too many personal agendas.
That's too many agendas. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, where Vince, his focus was the product, and I'm not saying people haven't had enough influence to argue with him, but when he makes a decision, that's the way it goes. And
and that's why.
And that's to me. I mean, plus along comes Steve Austin. Along comes Hunter. I mean, you were there that night when Hunter they wanted. Remember, I was working in the office and they wanted Randy Savage came the first time, right? And they wanted Randy to beat Hunter in like 10 seconds. I said, no chance. I said, because Hunter and I become friends, and he was on his way out the door. He turned on a nice deal, but he grew up in the WWF in that part of the world, and he was determined to go there. And look at where he's at now, and doing a phenomenal job. But people just assume because they were coming into an area that they're going to squash a top guy, and that never worked for us. It's never worked for anybody. Does it make sense? No. Yeah. And Vince got Steve Austin and Hunter and The Rock and Mick Foley, and and they had a focus, and they had some smart people, giving advice and that, and Vince and Pat Patterson worked their ass off, and they, eventually they won out. And trust me, there were times when I'm sure that they were struggling. I know for a fact that I've talked to Pat about it. There were times when they were worried. So
sure.
Because Turner had all the money. Yep, and we were just spending it left and right, which is that's anybody's prerogative. And the way sports are now, I don't begrudge anybody making money. I mean, when I found out that Roger Goodell made $43 million, I want football players to make 44. I mean, it's absurd. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, anyway, it is what it is, and I think we're all lucky that Vince did win out, because God only knows where we'd be if we'd gone the same direction we were going in. So things worked out, and that the thing too that Tony, after being there, is one of the things that makes Vince so different is the people. He gets these people. He spends more money on bringing people to understand marketing strategies and promotional strategies than most people, earn wrestling. Does that make sense? We're earning wrestling at that time. And look how it paid off. Now, he's got the network going, and I'm sure within the next year that'll be a huge success. So he's a guy that goes out there and does what he wants to do. I mean, he puts a lot of thought into it, and I think he gets a lot of advice, but, he's not going to be deterred he's not going to be intimidated. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. He also, Rick, if you'll recall when the Crockett's went out of business, and I know there were many factors for that, but one of the reasons that Vince prevailed back in the 80s was that Vince's television show looked better.
Yep.
His syndicated television show looked better, and television executives, local television executives, would naturally want to air that show more than they would something from Bob Geigel or something from, and we did pretty good back in the Jimmy Crockett days. Our shows looked pretty good, Worldwide Wrestling and NWA Pro Wrestling, or the old Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. But Vince's show looked good, and that's because he spent the money for the good people to put that show together. And just like you said, and the marketing people and everything, and that's why he prevailed. It was his business,
Yeah. Also, a lot of people, and Conrad knows this too, it's not a secret, but at the point when they had financial issues, they were dubbing over tapes. And a dubbed over tape never looked as good as a fresh tape. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The product just didn't come out, and they were dubbing like crazy. I mean, to save money, trying to stay afloat. But and as a result of that, how much phenomenal footage was lost from that era? You know what I mean?
Oh my God. So,
Tony, you were there when Watts got bought out, and you were kind of on the inside at the time. What was the feeling amongst the guys in the office and just the boys when that purchase went through? Ultimately, we know how it shook out, but when it first happened, What was the impression amongst the crew?
Well, I think the impression was, Conrad, that we were overextending ourselves. I think the fact that Jimmy Crockett moved to Dallas kind of shook the foundation of what we were, Charlotte-based company, and the Crockett's being so entrenched in Charlotte, not only Jimmy, but the entire family. And I think they had the right idea for a time to make the UWF and the NWA separate entities. But then again, it always goes back to they wanted the NWA to mean more, and so they made the UWF belt seem less and less and less, and thus it didn't work. But I think they got a feeling that we were spending a lot of money, and were we going to receive the results of it? And I think it's obviously history tells you what the answer to that was.
Well, and a lot of folks give a lot of flack to Dusty Rhodes, and this is obviously a big deal in wrestling this year for anybody who's been a fan. When Dusty passed away, I'm sure you've got some good Dusty Rhodes stories. Tell us some of your favorite Dusty Rhodes travel stories, or whatever they may be.
Well, I traveled with Dusty a lot, especially when I came back to WCW and he was booking. And I traveled with him a lot. And Dusty, I love Dusty. I got along with him. But, Dusty had an immense ego. And he had a vision about what he wanted. And he pretty much stuck to his guns even when things were going wrong. And he would always say, this is my product. I'm going to do it my way. And I'm going to take the heat for it. And if it's wrong, then they need to fire me. And that's why Dusty would do things his way even when things weren't looking that good. People always, said that he put himself over too much, and I'm sure he did. I'm sure he wasn't the first booker that did that. Traveling with Dusty was a lot of fun. He was very entertaining conversationalist, and a lot of fun. And he came to the house a couple times. He and his wife Michelle, got to know them because we lived close to each other in Atlanta. Our sons wrestled with what was his son that wrestled? It was Cody. Yeah, our sons wrestled Cody. Yeah, with Cody in high schools in Atlanta, and got to know him. Dusty was. I always thought Dusty was a very, and I don't think anybody will argue at this point, a very creative, brilliant, old school guy that I thought put a lot of effort and time in the business. As far as any Dusty Rhodes stories compared to Ric Flair stories, there's none. There's no stories compared to Ric Flair. Okay. There's nothing like
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Tony, man, I cannot thank you enough.
Well,
you got for this young man?
Knowing you and being able to say that you're my friend, it's been a highlight of my life. And I told the guys in the press box yesterday, I said, the Nature Boy Ric Flair called me. And they were all ears, buddy. And and I just want to let you know your friendship has always been valued. And I know you've had a very interesting life. But I was telling Lois the other day, I said, one thing that you can always depend on Ric Flair about, he's a true man. He always had a good heart. He always tried to do the right thing. And he'll always be a close friend of mine. So I appreciate you having me on with you.
Oh, good. Hey, listen, as a result of you giving this disclosure, Wendy wants free tickets to all the Braves games. And next time I come out to throw out the opening pitch, I need some more warm-ups, okay? I just can't throw the ball 10 feet in front of the catcher's the home plate, okay? It does not look good for Ric Flair. So,
by the way, you're not 28 anymore either, okay? So you can't throw it like that.
Oh, I'm aware of that, but you know what? I still got Wendy Buffalo, brother.
Do you ever, man?
Hey, if I can get to the pharmacy, she thinks I'm 21.
I love you.
All right, take care, my brother.
Thank you so much, sir.
Tony, I'm going to have a hard time keeping these alligators down tonight, brother. Woo! Okay. Woo! All right, buddy.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, Conrad. See you.
Bye-bye. Well, all right, Rick. That was fun. Tony Schiavone, somebody who's been one of our most requested guests for a long time, and we finally had him on. And I think he's still, like you said, one of the most underrated announcers in the history of wrestling. He was the soundtrack to so many great moments in wrestling.
Oh, I know. I mean, you're always going to give Gordon and Jim Ross their due. And I mean, people don't think about Gene. They think of Gene as like in a different light, as opposed to being a on-air, play-by-play guy.
Right.
But Tony Schiavone is right there as everybody's team. I mean, and he learned from everybody. He took a little bit from everybody, but he just stood there and he took the rifle shots from 40 different directions, never flinched, and delivered a hell of a product. And married to a beautiful wife and beautiful family, and God bless him. He made it, man.
He made it, and we did too. We made it through another episode of Woo Nation, a little late rather than never. I mean, that's good.
Yeah, well, sometimes, things happen, and we'll try to make sure we stay on track now, buddy.
Well, I'm glad you're getting the wheel fixed, and I'm excited to see 30 for 30. It was worth the wait. Thank you so much for having us today, Mr. Flair.
Love you, Conrad, brother. Woo!